Incense burning, all space is filled with the fragrance. All would smell it from afar. Auspicious clouds gather everywhere. With utmost sincerity, all is appear. We pay homage and offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. We pay homage and offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. We pay homage and offer clouds of incense to the Bodhisattvas and the Mahasattvas. Welcome, my friends. Santi Caro, he's a youngin'. So we were up until 4:30 this morning. He was doing all the work. I was just staying up until he finished. Creating the video to go with our audio. We on Sunday evening when we were, can they see if Joseph see?
Yes.
The companion question would be, are they looking at the back of my head?
They're not.
So Sunday evening, while we were doing our study on learning from Buddha, we got a call from Zazu. And she said, she is driven for her to try to get into regarding our path forward with the Learning from Buddha Life Academy. And she called and she says, oh, I tried to see Buddha Master and ask him questions that he didn't want to talk about any questions. He said, where's the video? And that was the song that we sang for him. It's the first time they've ever allowed anything, any kind of singing or chant or chanting in that Dharma Assembly Hall there. And they didn't know whether he was going to allow it. It was just our offering, to him. They didn't know whether he was going to allow it or not, but he did. And actually, when all the singing was okay, but when Santi Caro started singing, he was like, just like I'll indulge children, right? Yeah, they don't get it. But when Santi started singing, he sat up like this. And he said, so he told us to professionally record it and get it back to him as soon as possible. And that was in August. And we've been trying to do things. We've been trying to get, better equipment. We got better mics. We got new computer, new software, music software. Had some consultants come in, and so it's taken us a while to figure out what we need to be better. And that's the thing about the cultivation of the visions is doing whatever you need to do to be better. You know, sometimes some of us think that there is nothing that we can do, and others of us think that because we just have a altruistic goal or altruistic idea around it, that it's just gonna happen. You know, I don't know, the God's gonna come down and make it so or something like that. But, you know, I learned a long time ago, when I was a Christian, they would always speak of the Holy Spirit, right? And they wait on the Holy Spirit to do something, but the Holy Spirit is a paraclete. He helps you with what you initiate. You don't initiate nothing, you get nothing, you know. And so she called the second time, and when she called the second time, I knew like it was like really urgent, and we interrupted the class and picked up again. She said, I'm on my way back home. She said, he doesn't want to talk about anything but where's the video? And that was on Sunday. So I said, well, the video is on its way to be there in 24 hours. And Santi and I were like desperately trying to get it there by midnight California time. And we missed it, I think, by an hour because it got empty at the end. But you know, everything can be a learning, a lesson for you in how to live life. All worldly Dharma is Buddha Dharma. And I'm gonna get to number 16 in a minute. But all worldly Dharma is Buddha Dharma. So we shouldn't think that we should segment life, how we interact with people, how we interact with things, what we do, how we do it. Good to see you back, sister. How we do it. But we should pay attention because whatever we are doing, and we should do it well. And that's what becomes your vigil. It's kind of defined as high performing skills in a certain area, but it's more than that. It's like making your life count, a brightness that comes out from your life based on the wisdom and the resultant compassion that you have. So I don't care what you are, if you're a good shoemaker, you know, if you're a shoemaker, be good at that. You know, if you're a writer, be good at that. If you're a transportation driver, be good at that. If you know, I remember reading how a flight attendant was just noticing a child on the plane and picking up cues, you know, from her training. Wasn't like airline training, but she'd taken other training because she was concerned about child trafficking. And she noticed some of the markers of a child who's being trafficked. I guess that's how you say it. Mm-hmm. And so she gave the girl some cues so that the girl could know that she was asking her, was she in distress and did she need to be rescued? And the girl gave her the signal, yes, she did. And she saved that girl. Now, that's not her job, but she's taking everything that she's about and using it to save living beings. That's what I'm saying. So we don't have to think that we have to be something special, no matter who we are, what we're doing. We can apply this because it's part of our essential nature. Our essential nature is to be wholly connected in a certain way, that we are touched by the infirmities of others. They don't even have to say it. It's something that we know because of a capacity to like touch and wrap minds as we develop in our Dharma. These are the things that the Dharma does. They're things that we do, and they're things or properties that the Dharma itself possesses that become available to us. So when you think of like a Dharma is a thing, it's so much more than that, because actually it's not anything until it is activated by our conduct. And so when we understand this, as we go through our day, we know that we are practicing Dharma if we know that we are practicing Dharma. If we don't know, then we may still be practicing Dharma, but not to the extent that it can have its highest and its best use. So this is about transforming the mind, and who has to transform the mind? Yeah, we have to transform our own mind. This is a self-help thing. I mean, if the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas could actually save living beings, everybody been saved a long time ago. But the saving in this sense is the pointing out, the pointing in the direction, and that can get very individual as how many people are in the room. One size doesn't fit all, and it doesn't mean that any size is deficient. And so a person's personality and their acclimation to the world and their way of walking through the world can be, will be as different in the room as how many people are in the room. But the skill comes in pointing to something that's essential in each one, that they can find just a little thread to begin to pull, to find, to unravel, I'll say, their own knots. And so this is the great joy in the path. In one hand, it's not of any private interpretation, because the truth is just the truth. But on the other hand, it is not of any private interpretation. You can't tell me what it means to me. I have to figure that out. So and this is that dichotomy, that dancing on the head of a pin that we do, and being in that middle place, that we can see that it's this and it's this. It's neither this nor this. And when one gets in that place, then they roll with the vicissitudes of life. They're able to be with the ups and the downs, the ins and the outs, the roundabouts. They're able to do the same thing over and over and over if it helps, or do something different if that's more expedient. And that's what pulls out the sting or the prick of being in samsara. Until one finds one's way out, it doesn't mean like I'm in and like this is how it is, and you just handle it. Of course, you do have to handle it, but it's being able to handle it because we really understand. And one really understands. They can look beyond the immediacy of a situation. They can look beyond the immediate pain. They look beyond the immediate pleasure. But that we have when we can't figure things out. Now, when we can't figure something out, we don't have to get disturbed about it. We just say, I need more clarity, and keep looking until the clarity comes. If we go back to our dialogue about, oh, I'm never going to achieve, I can't do this or whatever, it's that self-defeating attitude, then there's no fodder there, there's nothing to work with. And so the Dharma cannot penetrate. But even if one was dull, but had confidence and the power of truth to be self-revealing, then that one can become an art. So we should have to have some confidence in ourselves. And one way that we have confidence in ourselves, one way that we can have confidence in ourselves is to know what we say we are about. Thank you. Is to know what we say we are about. To have some idea actually of what our path is. You know, this path that we're walking. And I don't mean like mumble jumbo idea, like just spitting out these sayings and sounding clever, but I'm talking about really when the fire is getting hot, you know, when doubt is coming up, when one is having to do something uncomfortable, when there's some fearfulness around something, you know, when one is hoping against hope, you know, like against all odds. I mean, you know, this is where we really live. When we can't change some condition, it is what it is. Knowing when we can change some condition by some action that we take. And when we are confident that we can do that because we have understood how to walk in this world, how to live and move and have our being in this world. Not throwing down the cards and saying there is nothing. It's everything that's there. It actually is there. Yet I will not be attached to, wrapped up in, caught up in any of it. It doesn't mean that we don't touch anything, taste anything, or handle anything. It just means that we're not all caught up in it. So sometimes we have to go through territories we don't want to go through. I mean, life was not a bowl of cherries for the Buddha and his disciples, or any that came after him. Matter of fact, somebody got mad with him because he wouldn't, couldn't promise him that life would be a bowl of cherries. It's like it's karmically driven. That's my whole lesson to you. So be careful what you think, what you do, what you say. Because you are going to see the fruit of that, whether it was good or not good. And so as he was dying, the Buddha started going around visiting the different camps that he had where he had established communities, and he never stayed in any of them too long. Mostly when he was visiting, he went off by himself, and he would come to them every day that he was there and give them a talk, and then say, now don't any one of you, so they gathered for the talk. And then he said, now don't each one go sit at the root of a tree, go in a hut, do something, and meditate. This is my advice to you. So before meditation came, something to ponder, something to use as a litmus for initiating or activating correct Dharma in your mind. And it wasn't about taking the teachings and trying to make them fit with what was coming up in your mind, but to use to shine a light on what was coming up and saying, does it measure up to this? If it doesn't, you have work to do. That's all. I mean, if you want to reach your goal, if you think there is a goal to be reached, And that seems so far-fetched nowadays that people tell you there's no goal, there's just a journey. Okay.
Where?
Now, the journey is important because the journey ultimately leads you to the goal if you're going in the right direction. But I'm gonna tell you, there is somewhere to go, there is something to do. So, does anybody know what page we're on? Or I think maybe you all pulled them down by different,
237 in the book.
we're just on 237, it'll take us about, I mean, this is one of the longest ones, one of the longest discourses in the collection of long discourses. So that lets you know how long this is. I like it because I'm kind of long, you know, in my talks. Mhm. Okay, so we know that the bad king came to him and asked him for advice. And he didn't say, you're the bad king, I'm not giving you any advice. I'm looking for the good king. The good king didn't come and ask for advice. So he told the bad king, there's nothing you're gonna be able to do. You cannot prevail against them unless you get them to like turn on each other. That's the only way you win. Only way you could possibly. And so it's, oh, I know what I'll do then. I'll get them to turn upon each other. So it's often been said that the children of darkness are smarter than the children of light. And so he used that wicked kings, that greedy, bloodthirsty king's question as a lesson, a teaching lesson for his disciples. And he started talking about, I won't go over those today because we covered them last week, the 6 or 7 things that we should do as good friends in the home that would cause the dispensation of wisdom to last for a long time. And then he packed up his bags and he went away and he went to the next place. Now in this next place, there was a different lesson. So every place he went, he didn't have the same message. He had the message that was useful for that group of people. And then not just that group of people, but something specific for somebody in that group. But generally birds of a feather flock together. It's like I know who is intent, you know, upon keeping their vow in this song. I know which ones are. I know which ones are not. I know which ones are halfway. I know which ones are scared because it means they're gonna have to change something that they're not ready to change or give up now. I totally understand that. Some things taken me 15 years before I was ready and I loved it altogether. I just didn't wanna like actually do what I had to do right now, but I kept the love of the ideal in my mind. You know, I mean, and 15 years later, when it is bearing fruit, I mean, it's like he erases all that time. He erases all that time. Once the empowerment comes, the self-empowerment I'm talking about, not what somebody else gives you, but once the self-empowerment comes, it's like in the Bible they talk about it like rivers of living water rising up, flowing out of you. It's a river of life flowing out. So I understand a lot about what we're talking. Don't be digging Christians. I'm telling you. I can speak for every spiritual tradition, but I can speak for that one as one. and the work that went into that created a space for me to step into this. I was a Judeo-Christian. I loved those patriarchs of old that loved God, the God that they knew. They taught me many things that I use now, that I understand, not in a different way, but I understand in a deeper way. So look back over your life and see the lessons that you learned, because actually we sort of like just keep repeating the same one. You know, we keep missing in the same area. We're not so wishy-washy that we're all over the place. Mostly we just keep missing in the same area. We think about it. You know, we just like make that like, you know, like that's just how I am. No, habitual tendency is what that is. But as we start to lean the mind, incline the mind in a different direction, then gradually we start shifting in a different direction. And the love of a teacher is to allow you to explore and make that discovery of who you want to be and how you want to be, and to nurture that, not to force anything. So when Buddha Master, you know, calls us stinky skin bags, I'm like, that's right, you know, because I know me. I know the thoughts that come up in my mind. You know the ones that come up in yours. So rather than us trying to see what other people are doing, you know, we shine that spotlight inward. You know, that's where our joy will come from. Because we won't find joy if we look in the outer world. Why? Because we're stepping out of that. So the world holds nothing for us. We just continue to be helpful and useful while we're here. And there are many ways we can do that. We can do it through teaching the Dharma. We can do it through humanitarian efforts. We can do it through the basic things that need to be done for every human being, like this, and taking care of our necessities around food, clothes, shelter, working in the store, working in school. I mean, just anything that you can think of. So we don't have to think of one thing higher than another. It's not like higher, even the teaching of the Dharma, if that one is not the one who should be teaching the Dharma. But if that one is, it's by the very by virtue of the fact that he or she or they are in the right place, doing the right thing. All of us are not meant to be monastic. And if we set one ideal as greater than the other, it's that everybody should be that we have not understood the teaching. And when he spoke of the noble Sangha, he wasn't speaking of everybody in the room. He was speaking of everyone who had nobility in his heart and in his mind. Because he had some monks that had nobility and had monks that had no nobility. He had lay people that had nobility, and he had lay people that had no nobility. So we can't always look at the outside, no matter how well it's dressed up. We have to observe for a long time before we draw a conclusion. Have you ever done that? You do a snap conclusion about something or someone, and in time you came to regret it because you drew the wrong conclusion. And another time you went a long way with somebody because you were so sure that's the one, but that's the thing. And down the road, you look at the fact that you just keep it going with your own ego, that thing that you had initiated. But it's a different time. So we have to stay open to the wisdom. And the only thing that keeps us from doing it is our selfing, our liking things to be a certain way, to stay a certain way. That which I'm comfortable with, settled into a groove, can do it with my eyes closed. You know. Surrounded by all good friends, all of these kinds of things. And so when he went to the next place, you know, now that he's giving instructions, and Mara comes and he says, okay, may the blessed Lord now take final nibbana, you know. And he says to him, evil one, I will not take final nibbana till this holy life has been successfully established and flourishes. It's widespread, well known, far and wide, well proclaimed among mankind. And all this has come, and all this has come about. So may the blessed one, Lord, now attain final nibbana. May the wayfarer now attain final nibbana. Now is the time for the blessed Lord's final nibbana. At this, the Lord said to Mara, you need not worry. Don't worry, evil one. The Tathagata's final passing will not be long delayed. 3 months from now, the Tathagata will take final nibbana. Things establishing when he's going to leave. Because that's one of the benefits of attainment. That you can decide when you finish with this. But you don't finish before what? Before your work is done. Mm-hmm. And when this occurred, there was a great earthquake, terrible, hairy, and accompanied by thunder. I don't know how many of you all are came up through the mindfulness movement, but I know y'all didn't talk about any of this stuff because it just doesn't fit with how we sanitize the message. And so it came to a point, one time I was in one of the mindfulness teachers, there were 80 of us. I won't name the place, but we were having a convention. We were talking, and one of the leaders said, let me see by show of hand, how many of you consider yourself Buddhist? And how many of you consider yourself mindfulness? And the majority of the people raise their hand as being mindfulness teachers and not being Buddhist, that is not being committed to embodying the Buddha Dharma. And I felt very sad at that moment because I saw something that started so wonderfully, engaging so many people. Yes, going wide. And along that spread of going wide, they learn what things not to bring in if you want to keep going wide. And so a lot that would really cause one to develop, beyond the areas that we need development for being successful in this life. Because this is a quick experience and then we go. And his message was not Yes, there's some, what do you call it, like, there's a byproduct of traveling this way, moving upward, that's what we call it. That starts with virtue, cultivating virtue. And virtue allows the mind to open. No one gets wisdom. And compassion is a partner to wisdom. So there was a decision to cut a lot of things out that would turn people off. So, I've turned a lot of people off. But once you've heard something, you can't undo it. So although they may be turned off to me personally, that's okay. Because I'm not here for anyone personally. You understand what I mean? I'm here in my friendship to walk with you and to encourage you what it is you're trying to attain. In the dropping off of those things that beset us, that cause us to not see, that cause us to suffer. It's not around light. Sometimes that can be, unlightened. So some things did hurt. Some things do hurt. But you learn how to hold those because you understand that sometimes we hurt. And the more that understanding comes, the better we'll get at not hurting, the better we'll get at not being hurt. Or we'll understand that goes with the territory. And so there was this great earthquake when he had that discourse, that conversation with Mara. And he said, just it'll be 3 months, I'll be leaving. And then there was this great earthquake. And Venerable Ananda thought, it is marvelous, it is wonderful how great this earthquake arises, this terrible earthquake, so dreadful and hair-raising, accompanied by thunder, whatever can have caused. And he went to the Buddha and he asked him that question. Ananda, there are 8 reasons, 8 causes for the appearance of a great earthquake like that. This great earth is established on water, the water on wind, the wind on space. And when a mighty wind blows, this stirs up the water, and through the stirring up of the water, the earth quakes. That's the first reason. In the second place, there is an ascetic or Brahmin who has developed psychic powers, or a mighty and powerful Deva whose earth consciousness is weakly developed and its water consciousness is immeasurable, and he makes the earth shudder and shake and violently quake. That's the second reason. Again, yes, I'm reading out of the Theravada canon. Again, when a bodhisattva descends from the Tushita heaven, mindful and clearly aware in his mother's womb, then the earth shudders and shakes and violently quakes. That's the third reason. Again, when the bodhisattva emerges from his mother's womb, mindful and clearly awake, then the earth shudders and shakes and violently quakes. That's the fourth reason. And when the Tathagata gains unsurpassed enlightenment, then the earth shudders and shakes and violently quakes. That is the fifth reason. And remember when he did the other discourse on the lion's roar, and he talked about what happened on the night of his awakening. When the Tathagata sets in motion the wheel of the Dharma, then the earth shudders and shakes and violently quakes, that's the sixth reason. And when the photographer, mindful and clearly aware, renounces the life principle, then the earth shudders and shakes and violently quakes. Again, when the photographer gains the Nibbana element without remainder, then the earth shudders and shakes and violently quakes. That is the eighth reason. These Ananda are the 8 reasons. And then he went on for teaching. And Ananda, there are 8 kinds of assemblies. What are they? The assemblies of the Katyas, those were like the warrior class of the government. The assembly of the Brahmins, that was the spiritual leaders, the assembly of the householders, the assembly of the ascetics, the assembly of the devas, of the realm of the great 4 kings, the assembly of the 33 gods, the assembly of the Maras, and the assembly of the Brahmins. I remember well, Ananda, many hundreds of assemblies of the Katyas that I have attended. And before I sat down with them or spoke to them or joined in their conversation, I adopted their appearance and their speech, whatever it might be. And I instructed, I inspired, I fired and delighted them with a discourse on the Dhamma. And as I spoke with them, they did not know me. And they wondered, who is it that speaks like this? A deva or a man? And having thus instructed them, I disappeared, and still they did not know. He who has just disappeared, was he a deva or a man? I remember many hundreds of assemblies of Brahmins, of householders, of ascetics, of devas, of the realm of the 4 great kings, of the 33 gods, of Maras, of Brahmas, and they still did not know who has just disappeared. Was he a deva or a god or a man? Those Ananda are the 8 assemblies. He said, Ananda, there are also 8 stages of mastery. Receiving forms internally, one sees forms, limited and beautiful, or ugly. And in mastering these, one is aware, the one knows and sees them. This is the first stage. Receiving forms internally, one sees external forms, unlimited and beautiful, or ugly. That's the second stage. So we're saying that what we see out here is an outpicturing of what? Yeah. Sorry. Yes. What's inside. We're creating the mind. The mind is always creating. So this is a way of taking really control of the mind in a more powerful way. I mean, that's what they used to teach us in hypnotherapy. This is the way to take control. Receiving forms internally, one sees external forms, unlimited and beautiful or ugly. So when we're working with visualizing the yidam in our meditation practice. And as we learned on Sunday night, those of you who were in the class, then that yidam that manifests that we create, like where does that come from? Yeah, it comes from our own mind. Now, that doesn't mean that there is not, we have to go to the next stage, okay? But this is the first stage to recognize that perceptions are mind conceived. So if you're always seeing the worst, check out your own mind. I mean, that's it. That's it. Not perceiving forms internally, one sees external forms, limited and beautiful, or ugly. That's the third stage. Not perceiving forms internally, one sees external forms, limited and beautiful, unlimited and beautiful, or ugly. And mastering these, One is aware that one knows and sees them. This is the fourth stage. And this is a whole study you can do right here. You see? I mean, a person can actually attain just from this study right here. Now perceiving forms internally, one sees external forms that are blue or blue color or blue luster, just as a flax flower, which is blue color, blue luster, or veneer's cloth smoothed on both sides that it's blue. So one perceives external forms that are blue, and in mastering these, one is aware that one knows and sees them. This is the fifth stage. And then it goes on to speaking of the yellow, and that's why you have training with the blue casina and the yellow casina. And it goes on to the red, and that's the training in the red casina. Then it goes on to the fourth, that's white, and that's the white casina. And that is the eighth stage of mastery, these ananda. And then he talks about eight liberation. So you can just do a study on the eight. There's a book that has been compiled with the Buddhist teachings on the book of ones. All the things that are just one. The book of twos, the book of threes, and you can go to the book of eights. And so you see how the many teachings, the broad teachings, how they circle back around, you know, and when you read something over here, and then you read something over here, and you put what was said over here with what was said over here, then you come up with a fuller picture of how to really hold the teaching. But if you cut out one little section, it doesn't mean you practice all of them. No, impossible. But when something attracts you, you know, then you look right there. Maybe there's something in there for you because you're attracted to it. A lot of times I say go for what you're not attracted to. But I could just as easily say, go to what you're attracted to. Because the way the Dharma is spun, it'll get you to what you're not attracted to. And then you see how you'll handle that. And so that's what he said to this group. Then he went on to another group. And he was talking about all the places that he had been. And he said, Ananda, this place is delightful. Whatever place he was at, he called that place delightful. And he said that, you know, once I was in Vaisali, once I was at Vulture's Peak, today I'm at Kapala, and I say the same thing. These places are delightful. So Ananda, whoever has developed the four roads to power could undoubtedly live for a century or for the remainder of one. The Tathagata has developed these powers, and he could undoubtedly live for a century or the remainder of one. He said, but you, Ananda, failing to grasp this broad hint, this clear sign, they're not very good to Tathagata to stay for a century. If Ananda you had, the Tathagata would twice have refused you, but the third time he would have consented. So what he's doing now is he's telling Tathagata, because Ananda, because he's telling Ananda, I'm leaving. You know, he didn't tell everyone I'm leaving. He just gave them the words that they needed to hear, you know, to continue on the path. But he told them, And he asked Ananda, he said, Ananda, do you have faith? He said, then Ananda, let me go up a little bit, because this is where I'll be, at Kapala Shrine. And he said, just today, Ananda, while we were up at Kapala Shrine, this place that I call beautiful, Art approached me. And he said, good one, take a lead. And I told him, you need not worry. 3 months from now, I will take my leave. So now today, Ananda, at this shrine, the Tathagata has mindfully and in full awareness renounced the life principle, saying that he's preparing to die. And when Ananda heard this, he said, oh Lord, stay for a century. Stay for a century for the benefit and the happiness of the multitude, out of compassion for the world, for the benefit and happiness of devas and humans. He said, enough, Ananda, do not beg the Tathagata. It is not the right time for that. And a second time, and a third time, the Venerable Ananda made the same request. And he said, Ananda, have you faith in the Tathagata's enlightenment? He said, yes, sir. He said, then why do you bother me with your request for up to 3 times? He said, but Lord, I've heard from the Lord's own lips. I've understood from the Lord's own lips. Whoever has developed the 4 roads to power could undoubtedly for a century or for the remainder of one. And that's when he said, do you have faith, Ananda? He said, yes, I do. He said, then Ananda, yours is the fault. Yours is the failure of that. Having been given such a broad hint, such clear sign by the Tathagata, you did not understand. You did not understand for a century. If you had, then twice you would have been refused, but the third time you would have consented. Ananda, yours is the fault. Yours is the failure. He said, and then I was staying at Rajagaha at the Vulture's Peak. And there I said, Ananda, Rajagaha is delightful. The Vulture's Peak is delightful. Whoever has developed the 4 roads to power could undoubtedly live for a century. But you, Ananda, in spite of such a broad hint, did not understand and did not beg the Tathagata to stay for a century. Once I was staying in the Banyan Park at Roberts Cliff. And then he named other places. At the Black Rock, at the slope of Mount Isigili, at the slope of the Snake's Pool in Coolwood, and Tapoda, at the Squirrel's Feeding Ground, in Jivaka's Mango Grove. And so and also at Matakuchi Deer Park, all these places, I said to you, this place is delightful. This place is delightful. Whoever developed the 4 roads to power could undoubtedly live for a century. And then once I was at Vasali at Udina Shrine and at Gautamaka Shrine, and he names all of these other places. And he said the same thing, but you, Ananda, failed to grasp this. But if you had asked, I would have consented. Ananda, have I not told you before, all those things that are dear and pleasant to us must suffer change, separation, and alteration. So how could this be possible? Whatever is born, become, compounded, is liable to decay. That it should not decay is impossible. That has been renounced, given up, rejected, abandoned, forsaken. The Tathagata has renounced the life principle. The Tathagata has said once for all, the final passing will not be long delayed. 3 months from now, there's a topic that will take final and bond. That the photographer should withdraw such a declaration in order to live on is not now. Come now, enough. We will go to the gabled hall of the great forest. And Ananda understood and he said, very good. He said, now is the time for the Lord to do as he wishes. And then the Buddha entered the assembly hall and sat down on a prepared seat, and he said to them, for this reason, those matters which I have discovered and proclaimed should be thoroughly learned by you, practiced by you, developed and cultivated, so that this holy life may endure for a long time, that it may be for the benefit and the happiness of the multitude, out of compassion for the world, for the benefit and happiness of both devas and humans. And what are they? The 4 foundations of mindfulness. 4 foundations, building the foundation, the basement. So we should not stay in the basement forever. The 4 foundations, they become not only the foundation of the basement, but like the joists and the floorboards, they become that which holds the structure together. But you have to, I mean, y'all didn't know new house yet?
Not yet.
Oh, okay, so he knows what I mean. I mean, like they've been building and, you know, but it's not ready to be habitable. So the structure needs to be there, but that's not where the enjoyment of living in. That's just the foundation, and you're gonna put onto that which is the enjoyment of living. So most of us have not even gotten to the enjoyment of living this life through the lens of the Dharma, because we're still stuck in it. And he said, what are these? They are the 4 foundations of mindfulness, the 4 right efforts, the 4 roads to power, the 5 spiritual faculties, the 5 mental faculties, the 7 factors of enlightenment, and the Noble Eightfold Path. Now, the Noble Eightfold Path came when? First, in the middle, at the end. At the end. It came at the end. That means to really understand what it is to walk the Noble Eightfold Path, there has to be, what did he say? It has to be the development, those matters have to be proclaimed, thoroughly learned, practiced, developed, and cultivated. So when we're studying the Noble Eightfold Path, it might be an eightfold path. We can already tell it's not that anymore, because it's not in the path, it's in the body. The second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth. who really will go against the stream that is against the stream. And that's where we find ourselves today. And it's a lot of courage to dismantle and to start again. Doesn't mean you don't know what you know. But it's put it in the right order that you get the right results. Like that cake I was trying to bake. And I didn't read all the instructions because I know, okay, so it takes yeast, you know. And I put the yeast in there. But there's a way you had to put the yeast in. And I didn't know like yeast is yeast. You know, because like, you know how we think about things. Like, doesn't matter as long as we do it. No, we don't have to, it doesn't have to be done in a certain way. But the dough did not rise. So then I got the packet out of the trash and read it. And it said, first you have to boil water to 100 degrees. Then you put the yeast in, and you let it sit for 3 minutes. Then you put it in for the dough. Mix it well and leave it alone, and it will rise. So I said, oh, okay. So then what I do is I got some yeast, since this one is not rising right. I think that's dead, it's kaput, done for. I get another pack of yeast, I put the yeast in, you know, following the instructions. It activated the yeast that was in there. And then the dough was like flowing all over the. So that's, you know, that's just a worldly thing. But can you see how we can gain wisdom? Where we gonna gain wisdom from? If we're in this world, where we gonna gain wisdom from?
From the world.
Yeah, we get to see it suddenly, and that's how there will be exponential growth, because you like just make an association with something that worked out good or something that worked out terrible. Either one of them, but you'll come up with an understanding about things. You see, so you cannot separate this from worldly life. You cannot. You can't run after who looks holy and think you're gonna get it by osmosis. And you can't even like yourself look holy and think because you do, you're gonna gain something. You know, it has to be the authentic walking out of what is true. And sometimes that requires an order. But here's the thing, once you get it, it's in you. And I'm finished. Once you get it and it's in you, then it becomes a spontaneous action. Where you're not thinking about it. It's just spontaneously arising what to do. And you cease being a person, like personal, like egoic entity. And you just become, what was the word? It starts with an I in the sutta I read. That was just 2 days ago. You become an instrument of the God. We just become an instrument. And that's when one knows that they're laying aside covetousness and greed for the world. I mean, really laying it aside. Okay, I think we should stop right there. The knowing can be boundless. Right now, I feel like a newborn baby. Learning for the very first time. But not learning for the first time. since beginningless time, going through programs, again and again, forgetting and being deluded, and nothing else to do but go through these rounds and be here now, wherever we are. But this time, it can be different. This time. This time. May you be well and happy and peaceful, and no harm come to you, no danger. May you always see the inevitable. Thank you.